All right, so okay, so this is the path to the location of that file, right? And what we can do, we can just do another echo, and we can append more information um, um, to the file by using the double redirection symbol here. Okay, so if I scroll down so you can see what this is, right? So if I use this double redirection symbol, it should append another word to this file, right? So if I now say type my file dot text, it shows hello, hello. Oh, oh, I see that Echo actually printed quotes. All right, so it printed quotation marks. Very interesting. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters. And then apparently there's also carriage return and line feed. So Echo messed it up quite a bit. Let's just open this in Notepad. Notepad, my file, and we select everything and delete this. So hopefully, if I save this file now, there should be no characters in it. And if I run my program again, right? So if I run this program again, the length is now 0. So it's the echo command that messed it up, right? So, but if I say hello, just 5 characters, and say file save the file, and go back to the to my application, run it again. Now it gives me 5 characters. I'm sorry, I was just expecting that Echo would be using double quotes as just command syntax, but it was sending in those quotation marks into the file. So anyway, so now when I explicitly went in and just made it hello, which is like 5 characters, this time I do get my length correctly, right? So what else? And also notice when now I say get path, it returns back a string, and of course it does give me a full path to my file, and file basically can give you easy access back to the path, both string or path class, but uh, primarily it's designed to give you an access to the attributes of the file. Okay, so let's go back to the to using our path class, right? So we were just looking at this long list of things that you can do with the path. Then we can go to actually the way um, to getting the path from the file system, and there's this file systems, another helper class, where you can say, what is my default file system? So you can even start not even at the level of your current directory, but you can go to file systems and say, what is my default file system? And then you can get path from there. So there's just another way of getting the path as an alternative to the paths, right? Because we didn't use file system. Instead, to obtain the path, what we did was we used this paths class, which comes from the new input-output system, but alternatively, there is another helper which gives you access to the file system. Let's try this statement and just say what else file system can give you in terms of the information. in terms of the information or usability? Let's find out. So let's just do this early on in our program, say file systems, and of course, if we go fix imports, we can go to new IO and just say OK. File system here, if we try to explore it, file system dot, so it gives you a set of methods here, and you can find interesting information about the file system itself, right? For example, the set of root directories, what is the proper separator for the file system. So this really takes it to a very formal level, but I told you that the default separator typically should be a / on most systems when we use them. So I'm not going to spend too much time with the file system right now, but it's an interesting helper class to also remember that it does exist, right? So it does exist. And also remember that the relative directory is always relative to the current directory. And the current directory is maintained by the operating system with respect to every process that is running, right? So if you're running in the server environment, your application is running, but that application is hosted by the operating system process, and that process always has the current directory, right? So you can always use relative directory, and that relative directory will be relative to the current directory. And you can always go from the relative to absolute. Okay, so another example, something that we already used is, for instance, we said that here's the file path, and look, there's a string specifying the path to apparently an existing file. Same thing we do. Get name count. The get name count. Let's explore name count with respect to. In fact, let me just try this code. Right, I just can steal it here and copy and paste. So instead of us just printing this file length, I can now say system out print, right? So we'll just print another line. I'll use just a horizontal line like that, right? And then I will paste what I have done here. And since I'm using file path, I will just convert this to file. This is the file path, so my name for this variable is path. So using this path, we can go to string, which we already did. We can also go to the file name. We can print what count is, and let's use this this small loop right here. Get name, and I think that sample actually missing an opening brace for the for loop, right? Just like that. Okay, file path to get name. This is yet another path. Okay, so let's see what this code does, right? So here's the path right here, path to an existing file. Okay, and I've used these backslashes. By the way, let's also try using the forward slashes. I didn't realize that to this moment I used the backslashes. So I'll just replace them with forward slashes, and it should be completely harmless. In fact, it should be a good change, because this is what most portable systems will understand, the forward slash. Okay, then once I have the path, I can work with my file. As you could see, I could say, what's your path and what's your length, which is kind of nice. But then I can continue working with the path itself, starting from this line, and I can say, how many elements are here? So let's find out. If we run this, Okay, so this is our path, right? So this is the entire path, and you can go using the path variable. You can say that there are 7 elements, and you see that the name of my volume is excluded from this list. Element 0 is the first subdirectory off of the root directory, right? So you need to basically assume that if this is an absolute path, the volume is present there anyway, right? And the projects and Java, so all of these subdirs, and then finally the last element is the name of my file, right? So that is available, and you can, as you can see, you can do some really elaborate work with the paths themselves. Not necessarily with the files, but with the paths themselves. So we already talked about this, going from path to an absolute path. There is a method for that. This is very natural, and I'm not going to dwell on this for too long. But if I were you, I would play with every single method which is available on both path object and the file object, and make sure that you understand what these methods are, and decide whether and how they can be useful when you write your code, right? Because you can do a lot of work at the level of the actual file system, and all of these objects that we discussed today, the file system, the paths, plural, paths, the path, the file, uh, all are very useful helper objects which can give you information about your file system, your paths, and the actual file object. Checking file accessibility. Let's run this example. This is an interesting example because it involves some kind of a few interesting elements. But let's take a break.